All right, y'all. I've got a confession to make. You're not going to believe it. I was wrong about Bitcoin. I let my ego and pride get in the way, thinking it's the future, but it's not. If you stick around, I'm going to make the case that the future are going to be built on data centers, AI, robots, and compute. Bitcoin isn't the future. It's AI. With some of the largest IPOs in history coming out this week with OpenAI, Anthropic, and SpaceX, I'm selling it all. I mean, I get to buy a share of ChatGPT, Claude, and Elon's brainchild. All the Bitcoiners said Bitcoin's going to the moon, but Elon and SpaceX are going to Mars. This is going to be a hard episode for me, but I got to be truthful because that's who I am. This is Dante Cook. Let's get into it. So I got to be real with y'all. I made a mistake. People started liking my videos, my real, raw, honest takes about Bitcoin, how I presented the information and the content, and I loved it. I loved the fame. I loved the likes, the comments. It all got to my head. My head got a little big, as you can see here on the screen. I even went as far as to build a new studio. And even though I hung the Bitcoin B on the wall behind me, by Friday it's going down because I'm investing in SpaceX's IPO. I'm investing in the future, guys. AI data centers in space. I was invited with 3,500 of the wealthiest people in the world, personally by Jamie Dimon, to listen to this conversation with Elon Musk, talking about data centers in space and how it's going to be the future.
10 questions for you, so I want to make sure I get to each one. Some of them came from folks here. They're all important, but one just to start is why SpaceX public now? Because you had choices, you didn't have to. Why now?
Yeah, I've been asked for many years about taking SpaceX public. So it's probably been, I don't know, almost 10 years that people have been suggesting to me that I should take SpaceX public. We've been positive cash flow for quite a long time, I think since around 2014, 2015. And we've been self-funding. In fact, in our private equity rounds, they actually have not been fundraising rounds. They've been liquidity rounds for investors and employees because we give everyone at the company stock. And SpaceX has actually bought back stock in most of our sort of funding events. So what's different about now is that it's a number of things, but we are embarking on a significant growth phase, like a capital growth phase, where we are going to put in orbit probably 100,000 satellites, or probably over 100,000 satellites just for communications. And these will be the version 3 and beyond versus version 2 and version 1 that are currently in orbit. Version 3 is, depending on how you count it, 10 to 20 times more capable than the version 2 satellite. And there were 3 chips that the SpaceX chip design team taped out that are specific to this, that are far beyond state of the art, which means it's 100 times more bandwidth than the SpaceX Starlink system currently offers. And also half the latency, because the altitude will be about half the altitude. I think it will actually be the highest bandwidth, lowest latency means of communicating. And the future with AI and robots is actually going to require a lot more bandwidth than we currently use. Because you can imagine, what's the bandwidth of a human? Its peak bandwidth of a human is a few hundred bits per second, but bandwidth of a computer can be a trillion bits a second. So the appetite for bandwidth of AI and robots is going to be enormous. And then we're also doing the AI data centers in space, which is another massive capital endeavor. But I think it'll be the primary means by which AI can be expanded.
I mean, look at all the benefits. We can now post unlimited questions to ChatGPT and Claude without pissing off all of the rural counties in America at the same time for stealing all of their land. What's not to like? And the crazy part is, 30% of the shares for the SpaceX IPO are available to retail investors. What can go wrong?
I could get any of this stuff. It's still not open to, I'm speculating. Is there? I'm asking you, is there any way I could get in and get a round lot of SpaceX at the IPO price?
Unlike a typical IPO, a larger share of stock is going to be set aside for retail, up to perhaps 30%. And so Robinhood should have an allocation, Fidelity, Schwab, and others, depending upon the way they allocate it. You should be able to get some. Now, maybe not everybody, but definitely that's the hope, is that retail investors are going to play a bigger role in this IPO than you normally see.
Obviously, I'm not selling all my Bitcoin to buy shares in any of this crap. any of this AI stuff of the future. We've seen this before in the 2000s with the dot-com bubble, in 2008 with the mortgage crisis. People try to pile into the new, biggest, greatest, and latest thing because of the pressures of inflation in a crumbling financial economy. I'm not actually selling my Bitcoin, and this isn't financial advice, but I thought it'd be a fun way to welcome you into the new studio. We're not selling Bitcoin at 62K. We're doubling down. But it's an honest question that everyone's asking. Is this Bitcoin thing over? Some of y'all aped into strategy, following Michael Saylor, and you all sound like this kid talking to Theo Vaughn on his podcast.
Like, I tried to do a strategy, and then I tried to do that strategy, and it didn't work.
Ugh. That happens a lot in life. I think if you have a strategy for something, it doesn't pan out.
Sometimes the strategy just doesn't work out. Bitcoin isn't over and it's not dead. We've heard this before, but here's a couple reasons why it could be selling off right now. Number one, Bitcoin is selling off because New York Knicks fans sold all of their sats to watch their Knicks lose at home with Donald Trump in the audience for the first time in 26 years. Here's some Knicks fans going back to their cupboards or their small shacks that they call homes or condos in one of the 5 boroughs after buying one of the $10,000 price tickets. The average price for the nosebleed seats in 1999 was $60. The average price for a nosebleed seat in 2026, $6,800. Maybe people were selling their sats. I mean, inflation is crazy though. With the World Cup coming up, a ticket to the match in 1994 was $25. There's tickets as high as $10,000 to see a World Cup match in New York this summer. Speaking of inflation, Bitcoin is probably selling off because times are hard out there for people. CPI numbers just came out, and CPI is actually higher than the real wage growth that we saw in the economy. Work harder, bro. Bitcoin may be selling off because 70% of Bank of America's selling signals are triggered right now. People don't have a lot of faith in the market. South Korea's market sold off 8% in seconds, and it was halted in one of the biggest flash crashes of all time. Bearish bets on the US stock market have hit an all-time high, the highest since the 2008 financial crisis. People don't believe in the markets. But the number one likely reason that Bitcoin is selling off is because people are trying to pile into the AI hype cycle. The biggest AI IPOs are coming out. Not only just SpaceX, but you've got Dario, Claude, and Anthropic coming out with an IPO later this summer. Shortly before them, Sam Altman, OpenAI, and ChatGPT. That means there's a massive amount of capital flowing into the build-out of these AI plays. And people are trying to capture the upside, which isn't a downside for Bitcoin. It just means there's a lot of capital not flowing into Bitcoin, which I believe this capital is ultimately going to zero. Here's what Saylor has to say about it.
Let me just say a few words on the market right now. In the year 2026, there'll probably be $1 trillion of capital that's going to flow into AI and the hyperscalers. We can see it right now. In the last 3 months, in the next 3 months, $400 billion of capital is being raised by OpenAI, by Anthropic, by Google, by SpaceX. You're literally watching an $85 billion IPO in SpaceX, an $80 billion offering by Google. No one ever dreamed that the company generating infinite cash, Google, is going to go to the market and ask for 80 billion more. Anthropic's doing an $80 billion raise. So what you have right now is a massive capital rotation, $400 billion in just a matter of weeks rolling into AI. About 1% of that, $4 billion has rolled out of the Bitcoin ETFs over the past 14 days. You have a portion of capital. Clearly, people they're not financing the AI trade with all crypto assets, but 1 or 2% of the market is crypto. And there is a reallocation to get ready for these massive IPOs. That has created a downward pressure on the price of Bitcoin, which has fallen from 82,000 to 62, 63,000 over those 15 days. I think everybody on X or in social media oftentimes loses their minds when the price falls, but it's not a complicated reason why this is happening. It's a massive vacuum. Every single investment bank on Wall Street is out there marketing the Anthropic deal, the OpenAI deal, the Google deal, the SpaceX deal, and everybody is got to come up with $400 billion of cash. And they're selling credit instruments, private credit, public credit. They're selling software as a service companies. Anything that looks stable, they're selling Bitcoin. They're rolling into the hot new issues. And that actually is the primary dynamic, I think, driving the market this week, this month. and it'll probably continue as long as these mega IPOs come. In the history of the world, there's never been $80 billion IPOs. And we're getting like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is going to be the biggest year of IPOs and equity issuance in our lifetime.
The real reason is that everybody thinks AI is going to be the next greatest thing. There's no one questioning whether AI might not be a good investment. Like, how do they actually afford to offer you unlimited tokens for $20 a month? What about all the private investors whose money's been tied up in these stocks and these opportunities for years that are waiting to unload on retail when all of these things come out for IPO? It's kind of weird. It actually does feel like a psyop. And with that, like every time that there's any sort of turbulence in Bitcoin, the lies are going to come out. Like, Bitcoin's only going to survive if Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy or Strategy get wiped out, according to Peter Schiff.
I don't care what you think about Bitcoin. You could disagree with me. You think maybe in the long run it's going to be a new digital gold. It's going to have some kind of value of who knows what. But before Bitcoin can get to the promised land, it's got to get through the liquidation of Strategy. This whole company has to go bankrupt. This whole thing has to be unwound because there's no way out of this.
Not sure what Peter Schiff thinks, but Saylor and Strategy aren't selling. After they sold 32 Bitcoin, they bought $101 million worth of Bitcoin, or 1,550 Bitcoin. And they also increased their cash reserves to $1 billion. The data shows that this is a generational opportunity to stack sats. Everybody likes to look at Bitcoin based on the tops, but they don't actually look at the bottom. The bottom? Baby got back. Bitcoin's bottom continues to rise over the years. A few cycles ago, it was 3,200. The cycle after that was 15,900. And now people are complaining that we have a bottom of 60K. What's your time horizon? The data shows that we are in the bottom 4% of bearish cycles that we've ever seen. Meaning that the data says that it's only up from here based upon previous history. And you know why the bottom also might be in? The US government and Congress actually putting plans in place to never sell their Bitcoin. The full text for the Bitcoin Reserve Bill just came out, which says that they can't sell any Bitcoin for 20 years. This is going to open up the floodgates for them to buy up to 1 million Bitcoin, which they said they were in the past. For them buying 1 million Bitcoin and them not selling any Bitcoin, well, that's pretty bullish. And if the US government won't sell their Bitcoin, then neither should you. You should work with one of the partners at Ledn, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans since 2018. They allow you to unlock liquidity in your Bitcoin without ever selling your Bitcoin. They never rehypothecate it, they never sell it, they never lend it out to other people and other parties. You can borrow up to 50% loan to value of the sats that you put into Ledn. Meaning, if you put $1,000 into Ledn, you can borrow up to $500 in fiat. The money's in your account in less than 6 hours. And they've never lost a single cent or sat of customer money. Don't sell your sats. And you need to protect them the right way. Bitcoin is an asset that's a bearer asset. That means you can control the physical keys and be truly sovereign. But how do you do that? Well, work with a coach and the people at the Bitcoin Way. Members of their team will show you exactly how to manage your Bitcoin, how to run a private node, how to hold your keys, how to do single sig, multi-sig transactions, and how to do it all privately and safely. Schedule a free 30-minute meeting with their team at thebitcoinway.com/partner/Dante-Cook. Tell them I sent you and they'll hook you up.
What I can tell you is I have the luxury of speaking to institutional investors. They've put months and years into looking at this asset class. So when they do that and it's cheaper, they like it. Some have a price target, some don't. Some are long-term accumulators. I just got off a plane from the Middle East, and I can tell you that the family offices in the UAE and the government and sovereign funds that are putting the effort into buying this asset class are not unhappy at being able to buy it at a discount. I get the luxury of seeing the institutional piping that's building and supporting Bitcoin and other crypto assets in good price markets and bad price markets. And what's kind of interesting is if I compare where we are now with the last time, or 1 or 2 times before I was on your show, in a much more bullish price environment, we have a shockingly stronger level of infrastructure than we did at that time. So that's what the institutional investors are looking for. But I will say even retail, we're still at about $100 billion of Bitcoin ETF exposure. Just think about that. This is a very, very new product. The price has dropped almost 50% from the peak, and we've only seen about 15% drawdown in the retail interest. So I think both retail and institutional are signaling this is a long-term asset you want to hold. Look, Joe, volatility is a funny thing, right? If I told you a year ago we'd be 100 days into a war with Iran, with the Strait of Hormuz being closed and no clear sight of line to it being opened, would you think that crude would still be trading under $100 a barrel, right? So when I think about these assets like Bitcoin, I think of them as commodities because of my background. And volatility comes and goes. But these long duration assets that are good to hold tend to stay popular with institutional investors. So I try not to stay up at night thinking about reasons why. I do know it was a great asset to hold. It was a fantastic asset to hold 10 years ago. It was a great asset to hold 5 years ago. And given the way the plumbing is progressing, given the way market structure is moving, tax reform, which I know the only thing less exciting than the words market structure or the words tax reform, but we have 7 bills circulating that will do great things for the institutional piping that supports Bitcoin and other crypto assets. On the institutional side, I'm not seeing folks panicking at this point. I'm seeing them thinking about what's the cheapest way for them to acquire new capital to buy into an asset that they loved at 125, they liked at 100, and they love even more at 65.
That's Coinbase's CIO. The institutions are buying and they're not selling. They're actually clamoring for more ways to acquire more and more Bitcoin. The whales aren't selling. Y'all see those big yachts? And then you see that little boat scurrying off right here in the picture? That's you, scared. The big players are continuing to stack, including the institutions. So don't get caught up in the hype cycle of the IPOs that are coming out. Sure, SpaceX is going to be the first trillion-dollar company to hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet, but that doesn't mean that it's an actually investable business right now. Retail investors, I do some digging. I do some research and reading. And if you're like me and not selling your Bitcoin and doubling down, then you should subscribe to the channel. We drop fire content like this 7 days a week. Welcome to the new studio. Welcome to Bitcoin Simply, where I drop knowledge as fast, fun, factual, and gives you the up-down on what's happening currently in Bitcoin and in broader financial markets. We always continue to stack sats. We don't sell our sats, and we even find ways to buy sats that aren't through exchanges, like Bitcoin mining, through SAS mining. Give them your money, they buy a Bitcoin miner, they plug it in, they have sats flowing to your wallet 24/7 without you having to worry about repairing machines, doing maintenance on machines, or annoying your neighbors with Bitcoin miners running in your basement. Work with the team at SAS Mining to become more sovereign on your journey. As always, this is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Welcome to the new studio. I hope you like it. There's going to be some fun knickknacks and things behind me changing for the next couple weeks, but you all are going to notice. Let me know what you think in the comments. We're out.